I did a lot of research. I met with a bunch of owners of local homes that were home health hospital. One of them who actually didn't want to sell ended up being the one who sold to me. She was my mentor for a couple of years, and she actually saw me. I posted on Facebook my being an Elvis at a nursing home, and she called me that day, and she was like, "I want to sell to you." Like, I wasn't ready to sell, but I just saw what you posted and how you interact with these older people and how passionate you are. And just like, and I'm 60, and I'm just gonna go ahead and sell it to you.
Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast, the show where we teach you how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want.
Doctor! 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 Doctor!
Now, here's your host, Dr. Alex Schloe.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Alex Schloe here with another episode of the Physicians and Properties Podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and thank you for taking the time to listen to another episode. This episode was fantastic. Before we get to it, though, do me a favor, leave us a 5-star rating and review and subscribe to this podcast. It helps other physicians hear the good word about real estate and entrepreneurship so that they can learn how that can change their life and lead them to have the ability to practice medicine and live life how they want to. Today's podcast guest is Dr. Moffett. He practices family medicine in rural Mississippi. He sees patients in the clinic, the hospital, long-term care, and occasionally in the ER. He's a certified medical director, and he's the director for 3 nursing homes. He's doing so many things in the medical space, but get this, he's also an owner of 11 different properties and has been investing in real estate for 6 years. He comes on the podcast and shares all about his real estate investing experience, and we talk about doctors in care homes, of which he owns a residential assisted living home. We talk a lot about residential assisted living and how you can find, network, and lead to providing great care for residents going forward. So without any further ado, this episode is packed with some incredible knowledge. I will say the sound is not the best on this podcast episode, but stick with us because you will learn a lot. So without any further ado, let's get started with today's episode with Dr. Craig Moffett. Dr. Craig Moffett, welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast. I'm so glad to have you on the show today. Thank you for taking the time to record this episode. How are things going?
Going great, man. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Where are you calling in from?
My home in Mississippi, in particular, Madison, outside of Saltville, so University Town, Mississippi State University. I live right next to it.
That's awesome. Well, really glad to have you on the podcast. Excited to learn more about your journey. Do you mind telling folks a little bit about your journey into medicine, and then we'll hit your journey into real estate and some of your business ventures as well?
Absolutely. I guess the cliche part is I kind of always wanted to be a doctor. That is, I feel like a common theme, although there are people that when they're 35 decide they want to be a doctor. But I had several medical issues as a child. I had multiple surgeries. I was in the hospital a lot. So I kind of was around healthcare a lot. Nowhere in my family worked in healthcare, but I was around it as a patient a lot. And I struggled in school initially due to some dyslexia and dysgraphia undiagnosed that we didn't find out how till later. But I always did good in math and science. And everyone was like, oh, you're doing good in math and science. Used to be a doctor. And so that's kind of, I enjoyed it. I knew that I liked to be around people. I liked the typical math and science thing. But I think, honestly, at a young age, it also was safety for me. I grew up with, I think, the biggest privilege of 2 loving parents. I think that's the biggest thing possible privilege you can have, but very little means. We didn't have much. We struggled a lot. And to me, I was like, well, if I go to college and study this, it may be secure, it may not. I may get a job. I was like, I like being a doctor, and they seem to have a job. So I think a lot of it was just, I enjoyed it, but ultimately I think I wanted that security. I think it's part of why I did it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us probably have kind of that similar experience. I know myself as well. We struggled a bit financially as a family growing up. And, you kind of saw, especially at the time, like the doctor mentality of like, hey, doctors are rich. And those sorts of things certainly come into play. Of course, the beauty of the profession is like being able to take care of patients. But as we know now, not all doctors are rich. And it is a whole lot of work, but it is really gratifying. Awesome. Well, tell folks, if you don't mind, a little bit about your journey into medicine in terms of, where'd you go to med school? What are you practicing? What's the job look like for you now?
Yeah. So I went to University of Mississippi, Ole Miss. A lot of people probably have heard of Ole Miss for either Lane Kiffin's treating stuff or The Blind Side or whatever it is. Great school, loved it. And then I did not get into med school the first time I applied. They told me I should retake physics, and I said I would rather die. I went to get a master's degree in biomedical sciences. The next year, because I felt like I was ready, I went and got a job as multiple jobs, but I actually worked as a CNA. I was actually offered a higher paying job as a pharm tech, but I was like, if I can be a CNA, then I know that I really want to help people because those people work incredibly hard. It's probably the hardest job in healthcare. So I did that for about a year on night shift. CNA on night shift on the med surg floor. And then I went to med school with the new DO school in the state. I was one of the first classes at the new osteopathic school. Mississippi just started in 2011, I think, is when the school started. And graduated there. I always knew I wanted to go to a small town. Originally, I was kind of anti-family medicine. I think because, unfortunately, as a profession, I think that we have been like, oh, you need to be a cardiologist or you need to specialize. But I went to a conference in med school and I met all these family medicine doctors that lived in these underserved areas. And they're like, yeah, I deliver babies, I do ultrasounds, I do, this and that. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome, and they were needed. So I started talking to small communities that I wanted to get served in, underserved communities. Like, man, we just want to get here. We don't need a heart doctor. We just need a doctor. Like, we just need someone to be here, see the patients. When you see kids, women, and adults, like, then please. So, went into family medicine. I have a scholarship for that too because I went to a small town and convinced my wife to move to a small town, Jackson, Mississippi, which is the largest city in Mississippi. Convinced her to move here with me. I practice traditional family medicine. So I do clinics, I do hospital, and every morning I go to the hospital, then I go to the clinic, I do nursing home. I was doing ER originally, although I'll cut back on that as I've increased my nursing home job. I'm medical director at 3 nursing homes now and probably have about 100 nursing home patients in addition to, 1,500 clinic patients and then my hospital patients. So that's kind of what I'm doing. A little bit of everything. I don't deliver babies. I do not do that, but everything else.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, totally full spectrum family medicine, I guess. But besides the delivering babies, if you're delivering babies in a nursing home, we got a bigger problem to deal with there. But that's awesome, man. Well, how do you have the time to balance all of that and the real estate investments that you have and the business opportunities that you have? How do you balance all that?
A great wife, for one, probably, and good support system. But I think, I'd love to give some business self-help book type answer, but I think I'm wired that way. Not necessarily more productive, but I enjoy it. And this is not to be arrogant or anything. I don't watch TV shows. I don't enjoy them. I don't really watch movies. I don't enjoy them. I don't play golf. I don't really enjoy it. I like hanging out with my kids and I like reading real estate books and going to work. I enjoy it, but I still do have to. So I try to from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. every night is family time. So I schedule this podcast for after 8 p.m. because I try to have my protected family time. I get up early in the morning. I'm up at 5:30. Going to the hospital. So for me, it's just grinding out, organizing it, but then also setting aside that time every day. It's like, hey, this is family, time. And then on the weekends, I'll try to set aside time for me and my wife and then me and the children as well. So.
Yeah, the wife that's the right answer. Well done. Yeah, I'm very grateful too to have such a caring wife who is understanding of the demands of the job and also, business ventures, real estate investments, those sorts of things too. So Steph, if you're listening to this, thanks for that for sure. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Isn't it kind of crazy too how much time you could find that you have if you cut out some of those other distractions like TV time, social media, those sorts of things? You really realize like, hey, I've been spending hours watching Netflix or I've been spending hours on TikTok or Instagram, and you dial that back or you get rid of that. You're like, wow, I do have time to build this business or learn about this real estate investment. And for me, it's turned into, real estate investing and some of our business ventures. That's just a passion. I really love doing that. I don't love it more than spending time with my family. There's nothing I love more than that, but that's become my hobby basically. And I'm grateful for it. And so I think it's really cool that we can be passionate about medicine, but we can also be passionate about real estate investing and entrepreneurship as well.
And really, when you hit something that really interesting and something I've been trying to shift my career. I want to always see patients. I do love my patients, but I am shifting my career more because it's hard for me to take. I think my daughter's lived in nursing homes before occasionally, but it's hard to take them to like clinical hospital with me. But when I go to do a flip, but when I go do my peripheral care home that we own, I take them with me all the time. I take them with me to see the process. I get to do that work or that business with my family, which is something that's very unique and important. So.
Yeah, and what a cool opportunity for your kids to like see entrepreneurship in action and get to experience that with you. And they're learning so much, I'm sure, by going to see a flip or going to see a real estate deal that they're going to take those experiences and hopefully, use that in the future to grow their own businesses or take over your business in the future. Who knows? And so it's just really cool for them to have that experience as well. And we talk a lot about, on the podcast, how real estate and entrepreneurship can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want to. And so I feel the same way as you. Like, I don't think I'll ever stop seeing patients, but I would like to have the opportunity to see patients when I want to, where I want to, and how I want to. And that is what financial freedom, if you will, can really offer. And so it's really cool.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, man. Well, let's talk a little bit more about real estate. So how did you get into real estate investing?
Awesome, man. What do you want? You want to start when I started or where do you want to get?
Absolutely, man. Let's talk about when you started. How did you get interested in it? What did you do when you first got started and how have things grown from there?
I think it all kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. I think for me, businesses, entrepreneurship, diversification, investing is all about security and safety. When I was in college, I started really wanting to make sure I was going to be secure in the future. I think one of the first books I read was actually Personal Finance for Dummies, which is actually very well written. Do not knock the dummy book. And the author of that book actually authored Personal Finance, Real Estate for Dummies. So my second book I read after that was Real Estate for Dummies. He actually had authored some other real estate stuff as well, and that kind of got me into it. And I found after grad school, when I was in med school, I found Bigger Pockets back in the early days of Bigger Pockets. I cannot say good enough things about them. I've listened to every podcast on almost every channel, read almost all of their books. So I've just really enjoyed that. And then, so obviously being a med student and a resident, you don't really have a lot of time. I don't know if you remember those days, but you're a little bit limited. Talking about my angel of a wife that I mentioned earlier. So I convinced her to have us flip a house. Wife, during my second year of residency, when she had a baby and just found out she was pregnant with a second one. So she was, and we did this together. So she was like painting with a baby in a pack and play in the house, because I was working 12-hour days. So I would get there like early in the morning, go do stuff in, and then me and her would go there late at night with the baby, and she was pregnant and doing stuff. And we flipped that first house, did it well on it actually. I think a little bit was luck. That was the closest I've ever been to an estimate on renovation. Ever since then, I've been old, but somehow I hit that one on the head and actually had it correct. And we netted about $30,000 after taxes and holding costs and everything, which was my very first flip. And this is back when I was a resident, so we wasn't making $30,000. And then I started moonlighting a lot during residency. So all that extra income, I started saving up for homes. I bought a long-term rental my third year of residency. They had a spare room up top, turned it into a duplex. Then I turned my single family home that I purchased with a physician loan, which if you're any of you on there or physicians, think about the physician loan. Where besides the BA loan, we're about the only people that can get 100% financing. I'm not saying that's always the right thing to do, but it can be very awesome. So I took a house I never put any money into, and I converted it into a long-term rental that was in cash flowing me pretty good because I had a super low interest rate, but it was personal residence, so I still have that house today. And then COVID hit and I decided to build my own house. So about 2 years, I didn't do anything. So I was a brand new doctor in the area when COVID hit. So for 2 years, I was locked in the hospital taking care of dying people. It was very intense. So I didn't really do anything for that 2-year period. I saved money, obviously, and we were building a home that went over budget, and so I used some of my funds for that. And I kind of felt bad about not doing anything for a couple of years. I was really looking at some things. I made a bunch of connections. I started doing some partnerships, so we got into, I think I wrote down on here, so I have 11 reefs total. Personal, me and my wife have 4, and then in a partnership, we have 6 reefs, and in another partnership, we have 1. So I met with some partners, and they're much older and educated, have more money than me, but they wanted someone young, energetic, with ideas. One of these properties they've been holding on to for a year and a half, not making any money on it. And then I was like, why don't y'all do this? I'm like, okay, well, why don't you partner with us? And so that's done well. And we have a couple of long terms. We have a warehouse that we've done some new construction. We built a couple of cottages. We built some tiny homes recently that we're very, very proud of. Luxury tiny homes right by the university. The first little tiny home village in this town. I feel like everyone has a tiny home village now, but this is the first one in our area. We produced these very, very nice, went over budget, but that's okay. And very proud of those. And we can go into any of these. And then after that, I started Doctors in Care Homes, which is what I'm very, very passionate about. We started that this year. And we have our first care home, and it's a 19-bed personal care home, residential assisted living personal care home. And then we plan to scale that and do a few more. So,
man, that's awesome. A lot to hit on. It's really cool to see your journey in, I guess, about 6 years or so. How you went from no real estate deals to now 11 doors. Really, really, really cool. And a few things that really stuck out to me and things I was thinking about. So, one, just getting started in residency. I think a lot of people are like, hey, how the heck can I do this? You did 2 deals at least in residency. And I think back to when you mentioned your wife was pregnant and you had a kid to pack and play and you're flipping a home. We did the same thing, except our kid was born. But I remember bringing my son Jack, and we would put him in the carrier and be painting the walls, of an Airbnb we were working on, or painting the cabinets, or putting him in the little, I'm blanking on the name of it, but it was this little chair. He would just sit in and just watch us work. And so it was cool. And at the time we were like, man, this is such an amazing opportunity. We think back and we laugh about it now and how cool it was that we were able to do that with the baby and still make things things work. And so I think, if you're listening to this and you're a resident or you're in a different situation, it may be worthwhile and still completely reasonable to find the time to do your first deal or to do a flip or to utilize the physician loan and put no money down and get jump started on your journey. So it's just, a lot of great things that you hit on there, Craig, which is fantastic. And then, of course, educating yourself first with Bigger Pockets and some other resources can certainly make a huge difference as well. Well, let's talk about first, if you don't mind, kind of that deal in residency. What was it like with no time, a little bit of money? What was that like flipping? And then, of course, you had a pretty substantial profit with that. So that probably made things a little bit better and kind of got the ball rolling.
One thing that helped is my dad had recently moved a little bit closer to the area. So, and he was working, but he helped me a little bit. So I knew I was like, going to have him to help, go fix a toilet or something like that. So I knew I had that. And how I found the deal was actually just telling him and all the other people I know, was like, I want a real estate deal. So I just started telling everybody I knew. And then actually someone mentioned to my dad and was like, hey, it was a situation of someone had passed away. They had 5 children. They couldn't figure out what to do with it. It needed a bunch of repairs. They were scared they couldn't sell it on the thing. And I kind of solved the problem for them. I found an attorney to help them with like the probate stuff, and we got a clear title, and I definitely paid well in the market value, but they all walked away with some money, and they wanted it to be nice again, and they couldn't make it nice again because they had good memories there. So I even kind of asked them like what they thought about colors and stuff, and I kind of let them get involved in that. But, I didn't really think much about it. I was like, look, I'm going to do this. I ran the numbers. I followed all the Bigger Pocket stuff and analysis, PAT, 70 after repair value. It was like, this is how you estimate costs. But this in there, I felt really good about the numbers. Knowing what I had known now, I probably wouldn't have done this, but I actually financed the first purchase with like a 45% down loan. And then I funded the rehab with money that I'd saved. And then I went back and sold it. I probably would have done things a little bit differently with the knowledge I have now. Maybe I would have buried it or something like that. But it's fine. I made money and it was a good experience. I told my wife, she was cool with it. I was like, hey, I think this is going to help us in the future. We decided we were going to do it. I just followed my ABCD plan. I stuck to my numbers and just did it. So.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, a lot of folks get stuck in that analysis paralysis and they feel like they have to know everything about a deal. It sounds like you spent time to get the education, you networked, which is really important, telling folks what you're looking for, what you're going to do. I tell folks all the time, just tell everybody that you're investing in real estate, whether you have one deal or whether you've done 100 deals, because you never know what's going to come out of that. And then you took action, and that's the biggest thing. And you had enough information to make it seem like, hey, this is going to be a scenario that most likely works out, but you're willing to take action, which might have been imperfect. I think being willing to take imperfect action is huge, or else who knows, maybe you'd still be kicking the can today instead of having 11 doors. And so really awesome, man. Really cool to hear that. And just so cool to hear that you did that in residency. It's awesome.
It really is. I think it's really one of those things that it's probably did. I've told it a couple of times, but I went into detail about it. But it's not one of those things people think you're crazy when you're doing it. I don't know how I convinced my wife to do it, but she's always been awesome. But looking back, like you said, I've got memories of my little daughter, that little pack and play. It was fun. You just, like I said, you have your general information, like, hey, worst case. I looked at always look at worst case. And I was like, look, worst case, near. And I was like, I think I can do it. I'm moonlighting to make a little bit of money. I cover the mortgage if I have to. If I can't sell it, I can hold on to it. Like, so I had all of it planned out. You just gotta go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is awesome. And then, super cool to hear about the partnership. And how did you find partners, or what recommendations would you have for folks who are looking for partners? I think a lot of times folks are worried about finding a partner because they want to keep 100% of the deal, 100% of the control. But I look at it from the aspect of like, if you can find a partner that's complementary, who has a different skill set as you, that's like putting fuel on the fire. And I'm really grateful to have 2 incredible partners, and we've grown way faster in our business than we could ever do on our own. So what are some things that you looked for in a partnership, or what are some benefits to partnership that you've figured out?
First off, I still struggle with that. I've got great partners, but every few months I look through and I'm like, I feel like I should have more on my own, because I'm like, I've enjoyed, like, it's always something you struggle with. And I actually am trying to, I bought another one for me and my wife that we just own ourselves a few months ago, because I felt like I need to get something else, just me. I think that networking is the absolutely best skill you can have. It didn't matter what you want to do. I think a lot of doctors don't think about that. But even when I got to the small town, I called the superintendent, the mayor, the principal. I called everyone. Like, hey, I want to meet with you. I'm a new doctor in town. For everything you're doing, just meeting with people and making connections is absolutely important. So throughout that COVID period, it's kind of weird time to make connections. Every opportunity I did, I met people, talked to people, I followed up with them. If I met someone in person and they seemed cool, I found them on social media, I'd be like, hey man, enjoyed talking to you at lunch today. Let's meet up or whatever. And I just kept doing that, and I got to be some good friends with some older guys and all in their own businesses. So one of my partnerships is a real estate attorney, which is always good to have a real estate attorney as a partner. And then the other partner is a business owner and very like accountant-minded person. So he does a lot of our kind of day-in numbers. And I met him through network, and I'm basically really good friends of one of them. And then I'm kind of more of a visionary type idea person, and then kind of like a get things done person. So like I'll have a lot of the vision, and then like if something really needs done, like I'll hound someone till it gets accomplished. Whereas one of my partners kind of keeps up with all the money, and he has all the like connections with the water departments and the permits and all that. And then my other partner is a real estate attorney who gets our deals. I mean, that's where because he's got people that comes to him, and so that's where we get the deals from. And then Dr. Zen is a separate thing. We'll talk about it in a moment, but I did all that. I actually found my partners myself. So we talk about that in a moment, but on the just pure real estate side, I think that you got to leverage. I think that you do give up stuff from a partnership, but also realize what you bring to the table. So they actually gave me some equity for free. I put money in. I put a lot of money in, but they were in a deal they'd been in for a year and a half. They had not been able to monetize. And I had a bunch of ideas, and I was like, I guess if I can come in there. And they're like, well, we're not making any money right now. What if we give you a little bit of, you come in at a lower number, and we'll still give you an equal 1/3. And it was worth it to them because they wouldn't make anything. So I got a little bit of equity, still put some money in, and now they're making money on it where they haven't been. And then, so it's just networking, putting yourself out there, bringing value. My value was kind of the ideas I had. I had all this real estate knowledge from reading 1,000 books. And things, but that was kind of chaotic, but that's kind of what we did. So
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, really, to be successful in real estate, you already hit on this. You really only need three things. You need the money, the knowledge, and the hustle of Brandon Turner's deal triangle. And so think about that. If you listen to this, money, knowledge, and hustle, you only need 2 out of the 3 of them. Or in your case, you only need 1 out of the 3 of them because you had 2 other partners who were filling in those other roles. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I have the money and some knowledge, but I don't have the ability to go find deals, you just need to find somebody who's got the hustle. And that would be a good partner for you potentially. And so it's a good way to think about it. And what a cool way too for you to come in, add value, and get part of a deal that you otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to have. And so there's a lot of different ways to do this, but networking, I agree, networking is just such a crucial thing. It's such a key thing in real estate investing and just life in general. The more people you network with, you never know the opportunities that are going to come out of that. So really cool. Well, Craig, let's pivot to Doctors in Care Homes. Let's talk a bit about residential assisted living, Doctors in Care Homes, and go from there. So what is Doctors in Care Homes?
First of all, I feel like that you should be giving this lecture because if you don't follow Alex on social media, if you're a doctor, you want to invest, he does a great job with these residential assisted living facilities. And this really is, I think, one of the most undersold investments in the future. But Doctors in Care Homes. So I do a lot of work with nursing homes and with care homes as a physician. I'm a very heavy geriatric. I also do hospice. I'm a hospice medical director as well. I've been in a lot of these homes, and 2 years ago, I was listening to a Bigger Pockets podcast, and I think they had Silver Tsunami lady. I did her a disservice. I hope she probably didn't listen to this anyway, and she was only talking about her home. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, correct. I was like, I love real estate, and like, I like medicine, and I treat the geriatric population, like I need to make this work. So I made the decision that day, pretty much, that I was going to do this. I did a lot of research. I met with a bunch of owners of local homes that have home health, hospice. They opened their books and showed me stuff, and I reached out to a whole bunch. One of them who actually didn't want to sell ended up being the one who sold to me. She was my mentor for a couple of years, and she actually saw me. I posted on Facebook about me being an Elvis at a nursing home, and she called me that day, and she was like, I want to sell to you. Like, I wasn't ready to sell, but I just saw what you posted and how you interact with these older people and how passionate you are. And just like, and I'm 60, and I'm just going to go ahead and sell it to you. Yeah. So anyway, so Doctor in Care Homes is, I want us to be a provider of some of the best personal care home, what I would call your average person. If you look at personal care homes, a lot of them are going to be very expensive or either very not good. So you're either paying $7,000, $8,000 a month for a high end one, or you're paying maybe $2,500 for a place that absolutely horrible. I wanted to figure out how to provide a place at a little bit less than the median for my state, in my area, but above median quality in care. And that's what my goal is. The first one we purchased was in line with that. So my goal is to get these medium-sized ones. I'm talking, 15 to 20 personal care home. That's a pretty good number for us, although we would look at some other ones and provide just an excellent place. And I want someone who will, as a teacher for 40 years, has a pension to be able to afford it. I don't want to price out all these great people that have worked their whole lives and need a place to stay. Obviously we can't charge nothing, but I wanted to find a way to make money while also letting your average person be able to afford it. So that's kind of where our goal is.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. And there's such a huge need for assisted living. Right now we're already 1 million beds short to 1.3 million beds short, depending on what research you're looking at. And there's 70 million baby boomers, and 7 out of 10 of them are going to require long-term care. So 59 million boomers that are going to require long-term care. And so I agree, man. I think that residential assisted living or assisted living investing in general is the best opportunity in real estate now and for decades to come. And so it's it's really cool to see folks like yourself who are doing it right, man. And I think there's definitely a wide spectrum of residential assisted living. You could have like the super boutique, very luxury assisted living experience and charge a lot more. You could have more reasonably priced homes like yourself. And there's just so much in between. And so it's just a really cool opportunity to provide an incredible service, to invest in something that's really fulfilling, and to provide way better care for the seniors.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you have to steal from the Civil Tsunami family and the Residential Assisted Living Academy, to do good and do well was their motto. And I really think that's a great one. I think this is an area that you can do that in. I think that you can do a great investment for yourself. I think you can make a lot of money. But at the end of the day, it is a huge need because, I've seen the conditions that some of these elders are living in. Sometimes it's even at home because they just don't have anyone to care for them. And you can, if you do it correctly, you can provide a phenomenal place for them to spend what is possible the last years of their life to be cared for in a way they deserve, while also making a good investment. So I think it's just a win-win for everybody. So.
Yeah, absolutely. As a physician, of course, taking care of a lot of geriatrics, you have a lot of insights into what these residents need and what is a good care home and environment for them. What are some things that you've learned kind of through your practice and working in some of these nursing homes that you've incorporated into your homes, or what are some things that you recommend? Or maybe a better question would be, why do you think residential assisted living is a better place for residents than some of these big box facilities?
So one, a lot of people think that the family member would just be better at home or with them, but you don't have caregiver burnout. You want to be able to enjoy your mom or your dad and not be angry at them after you've been caring for them for, and it sounds horrible, but it's like for your children. If you're with your child without your wife for a whole week, you're going to start probably being a little more aggressive with them than you would want to. So I think that trying to keep your family member in your home with you, as you're working a full-time job and everything, you're going to have some burnout and you're not going to enjoy your mom or your dad, your grandmother, your mom, as much as you could have. Two, so I think that's why the home is not always the best option, is that caregiver burnout and just not having activities and the socialization. Because what I know from being a doctor is if you look at the studies of dementia patients, socialization and activities and sunlight exposure are pretty much the best things you can do. If you can socialize them, if you can give them activities, and if you can put them out in the sunlight, they're going to have much less symptoms of dementia and they're going to do much better. So I'm trying to incorporate that into my care homes. I'm actually, since I purchased, we're increasing our activities, we'll add some outdoor features. They can do more stuff outside in the sunlight. Just a little caveat, and really the most important thing is the staff, because you can have the best facility or whatever. So when I first took over this, was having the best. I've been a CNA before. It is the hardest job anyone will ever do. I don't care what. I've done construction, I've done roofing. Being a CNA, you get paid not much. It's the hardest job. So I've worked toward to give them pay raises, pay them as well as I possibly can, treat them well, respect them, and appreciate them, so that I can keep the best staff. Because who's taking care of that person 10 o'clock at night when they need to go to the bathroom is what matters. So getting a good staff. And then to answer your question of why kind of the medium size, I think the things that me and you focus more on than a big 200 bed assisted living facility is because of that staff. You're going to get that same staff member. It's going to get to know you. I've had staff at this one that have been there for 10 years, and they love those people. They do not want to leave. We only have like 3 different shifts, and we'll have like 2 different people for those shifts. It's a smaller environment. It really, really from a family. If you're in these big box stores, not stores or facilities with 150 beds, you're not going to get that. You can't get good care, but you're not going to get that personalized, like I feel like she's my daughter type of attention you get at these 10, 15, 20 bed homes. You're just not going to get that in one of those big box ones.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some of those big box homes, you got a caregiver ratio of like 1-30, which is unbelievable. And I agree with you, being a CNA is such a challenging job. I can't imagine doing it. Super grateful for our folks that do, because it's much needed. It's rewarding, but it is hard work. That's for sure. And yeah, I agree that personalized care approach, residents are going to do such a better job in that environment of personalized care than they're going to do at one of these bigger box facilities. And probably going to live longer, certainly going to live in a cleaner home, a more community-like environment, and their last years are going to be lived much better than they would be in some of these bigger box facilities. And there's some good ones out there, not knocking all of it, but it's hard to argue with the fact that like your mom or grandma could be taken care of by a CNA who's taking care of 5 other residents, or they could be taken care of by a CNA who's taking care of 25 other residents. You know what I mean? And so I would want that personalized care approach for my family member.
The food's better too. The food in my home is good. Fresh cook. These smaller homes, I think, can have a little bit of food too, which is really important in our elderly population. Weight loss, appetite loss is a big issue. So we don't always think about it. But I also think they have better food just because you have that cook that knows. Like my cook knows what everyone likes there. She knows exactly how to make it for them. So it's very personalized. So.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that one of your mentors reached out to you and said, hey, we want to sell to you. We love your passion. We love what you do. We love how you interact with the residents. How did you initially find that deal or get some interest in that deal? And then do you mind sharing some of the numbers, purchase price renovations, what's your income like, if you're willing to share
Yeah, let's
that?
do it. So I reached out to a bunch of people that own them that I had worked with, and then I asked them for contacts. I was like, hey, I think you do a great job of your home. Anyone else that owns one? When you develop and you always meet someone with it, ask them if they know anybody else. That's just, So I found her through asking someone that owned one, if they knew anybody else. And it's a phenomenal lady. She owned one that I haven't looked at yet. It's only about 30 miles away from me, which in Mississippi is nothing. Like 30 miles is like in my backyard, basically, because we're a very rural area. And it's been there for 25 years, very good reputation. And she knew I wanted one because I was asking her questions and everything. And she wasn't going to sell for like 5 or 7 years. So she's like, yeah, I'll sell to you 5 or 7 years. I'm not ready yet. But I stayed in contact every few months. I'd ask her a question. I'd send her a thank you note. I would send her a little gift or something like that. And we just kind of stayed in contact. This was 2 years. This was 2 years of me asking her questions and things that went really out of nowhere. And like I said, I do a bunch of nursing home work. And they got me a dress up and dance like Elvis at one of them. And she called me after that. But yeah, it's just, and it's also important is I want also on Doctor's Inn, I want it to be, like, it's Doctor's Inn, like INN. So it's like Doctor's Inn, like a whole, I want it to be a physician-owned group. So I have some partners. I'm a 50% owner and president of both. So we have a real estate company and we have our operating business company. I got all the partners myself. I knew some physicians that were interested in investment. Reached out to them. When I actually ended up having more that wanted to join in than I wanted to accept, because I didn't want 10 partners. I wanted less. So I actually had to kind of turn a few down because it's a great investment. If you really look at it, it's good. And then we did get one accountant in. You got to have somebody that knows accounting. So we've got a few doctors and one accountant that are owners. I'm 50% owner and president of both. And then the accountant is also he's our CFO. So he's kind of, me and him are the CEO, CFO, and everyone else is more of a limited partner or a silent partner. So most of the ones in Mississippi and Alabama that I've seen that are purchased are typically purchased in 2 transactions. You purchase the real estate and you purchase the business. There are different ways to do this. It does not have to be done that way, but in my area, that's typically how it's been done. So she originally wanted, I think, 1.2 for the whole thing. So 1.2 million for the business and for the real estate. After we looked over everything, we got that down to 1.16. So we dropped them by 40 grand. So basically we did almost even split. We did 580 on the business and 580 in the real estate. The real estate appraised was 595. It's a little bit more. Although I think it's really probably worth 650 because the bank never appraises it much more than what the purchase price is. But I had my own appraiser look at it. He thinks the real estate. So we probably got some equity there. And in the business, there's a lot of ways to look at that. Ultimately for me, like I told her, as long as I cash flow what I need, I don't even care what the purchase price is, and you can sell it for $1 million if it's 0% interest and whatever. So we actually more about the term. So she owner financed the business to me. So the $580K that was the business, she owner financed me on a 30-year amortization schedule, 10-year balloon payment. So I'll owe over the entire sum after 10 years, but it's amortized for right now over 30 years, leading to excellent cash flow. She also gave me delayed payments with no interest for 3 months, which I wanted to build up my operating income. So that was my idea, and she agreed to it. So I didn't make sure to pay in 3 months, which allowed me to build up some additional income streams. And then in real estate, we did 15% down commercial real estate loan at 6.5%, which 3 months ago when we did it was about the best you could get. It's still actually okay for now even. Everyone was telling me 7.5 to start with, so I had to fight to get that 6.5. But so we did that. NOI on it when I purchased, so I had been, she had recently reported about 18 to 19K a month NOI. However, the 2023 NOI was less, closer to 16, although she had spent about $6,000 in the facility improvements the last year. But because the NOI was a little bit lower, we adjusted a few things because she had no debt on the property, and I was going to have a 6.5% interest rate. Saying I wanted to basically have at least $8,000 in potential free cash flow, and that may sound crazy. Some people are like, oh, well, that's way too much money. Like I said, money to me is safety and security. So I wanted to be able to make improvement. I wanted to be able to make sure notes were covered, bills are paid. I was going to increase everyone's salary from the get-go because I bet CNA before was important to me. So I knew I was going to have those increased expenses. So I wanted to have at least $8,000 projected free cash flow. So that's the numbers of the base to build off of. I also knew that they were under rented. They were about $350 under market rent. So I've already instituted my strategy to get that up. I wanted to be respectful and do it not all at one time with everybody. So I sent a welcome letter and I gave them multiple choices. And I was like, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to improve the facility. To do that, we're going to need a 5% increase here and a 2% increase here. And everyone was fine with it. So within a year, just on that alone, I should go up about $3,000. I'm also inside the facility because you have to look at these regulations because there's a bunch of state regulations on square footage, bathrooms, toilets, finished facilities. I did my research. I knew that. I have the potential of adding it to 2 rooms under rate, which could be a substantial revenue. I mean, you're talking about spending $15,000 to get an extra $3,000 a month. I mean, that is like, that's what insane math, insane return on investment. I'm not done it yet, but that's my next phase plan. I've already contacted the State Department of Health to come out and do an assessment where they will come out and verify that I do have the space and the ability to do that. And then I'll get a contractor to come down. So that's kind of my next phase there. So.
Man, that's awesome. What a cool deal. And, and for folks who are listening to this and thinking about net operating income, these are commercial properties. And so the more you increase your net operating income, the more the property's worth down the road. It's all math, so net operating income and cap rates. And so adding those 2 rooms adds an enormous amount of value to this property. And for the sale or the refinance in the future, it's enormous. So that is awesome. What a cool opportunity to network and continue to have all those touch points with her over the 2 years, and then get the sale, and then be able to do, seller financing on the business, which is a way that you can tweak terms and figure out what works for you and what also works for the seller to get an incredible opportunity that cash flows on day one. Like there's just such a cool deal. So thanks for going through that and doing a deal deep dive and talking about the structure of that, and excited for you and your investors on that one for sure.
And I just want to point out real quick, she is phenomenal. She's a very small business lady. It wasn't that, this was not like she didn't get taken advantage of. It was tax advantageous to her. Owner financing can be very good for her too. She gets to roll out her taxes over a multi-year period, so it's not like, oh, you're just taking advantage of someone. She knew what she was doing. I proposed it to her and she was very kind to me and very easy to work with, but this can be advantageous to the sellers as well, so.
Yeah, we've done some creative financing on a few of our deals, and it's an opportunity. It's a great opportunity for the seller, a great opportunity for us, and you have to figure out what works best. And for us, like for example, the last deal we did, seller financing, and so essentially the owner or the seller acted as the bank for us, and we just got to know them and got to talk with them over time. And it turns out all that they wanted was to retire, and so they wanted cash flow and they wanted $45,000. And so that led to us paying $45,000, which was 6% down on this property. And then we got a better interest rate than what the market rate was at the time. We got 6% when it was about 8.5% at the time. And it's the same thing, 30-year term. So it was just an incredible opportunity. And so seller financing, creative financing can be a great way to get into a deal with less money out of your pocket or adjust the terms how you want to. They always say you can negotiate your price, but it's on my terms, or your terms and my price. And so it's a great way to be able to do that and to get into a deal and add a lot of value and equity from the beginning.
Yeah, awesome, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's next for you with Doctors in Care Homes, or what's next for you just in business and real estate in general?
So Doctors in Care Home is definitely what I'm passionate about right now. I would like to have 3 to 5 of them in 5 years. I don't know that I necessarily want to have like 30 of them or anything. I mean, I think that we'll see. I definitely want to expand. I want to have 3 to 5 at least within, 5 to 7 years is kind of my time frame there. And then also improve each one too. So like, even though I'm not buying another one right now, I'm increasing the rooms in the one I have and trying to increase my NOI and keep good care of these people. For me, really everything goes back to my other things most important. Family's most important. And after that, really to me is advocacy. So I do a lot of medical advocacy in my state. I'm on the state Medicaid board or state medical society board. Do a lot of advocacy for Medicaid and for underserved areas, rural healthcare. That doesn't pay any money, but if I can own 5 personal care homes and then do clinic, a few days a week, then I can go do these things. So that's kind of ultimately, 10 years from now, I would like to be a 80% advocate and a 20% in clinic doctor is kind of what I would like to do. So
that's awesome, man. Excited for that. Excited to hear that there's folks like you who really genuinely care, who are advocating for these patients. It's awesome. And you're changing the way that care is provided for them there in Mississippi. So super excited for you and Doctors in Care Homes and everything else that you're working on. And also really grateful to have you on the podcast today. If folks want to know more, reach out to you, connect with you, how can they do that?
Absolutely. LinkedIn is the absolute best way to reach out to me. It should be in the show notes. Happy to just network. I do have a little consulting thing, not quite as extensive as Alex, but if you want me to look over a deal for you or anything like that, I do that as well. Doctors in, we're always looking for properties, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee type area. And then if you own a nursing home and you want to improve your property scores, you can also give me a shout. We've increased all of my nursing homes to 5-star where they were at originally. So I'll be happy to help with any of those aspects.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll include the links in the show notes. But Craig Moffett, they'll be able to find you on LinkedIn. So definitely reach out on there. That's how we connected too. And really grateful for that. Awesome. Yep. And we'll definitely put that in the show notes there. Awesome. Well, without any further ado, thank you so much for your time. I want to be respectful of it. And thank you to folks who listen to the podcast. With that, it's been Dr. Craig Moffett and Dr. Alex Schloe with another episode of the Physicians and Properties podcast. Signing off. Hey, real quick, if you're still listening to this, I'm assuming you got value from it. So I need your help specifically. My 2-year vision with this podcast is to help 100,000 physicians learn how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want. There are 2 main ways that a podcast grows. One is through ratings and reviews, and the other is word of mouth. If you can please leave me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as send this to 1 to 2 friends that you think would get value from it, we can reach the physicians that we want to reach. Thanks in advance, and talk to you on the next episode. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or medical advice. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.